Okay guys, today I thought I would showcase the sort of final form of my Smite Slayer build. I've been following Rutu's build and I've kind of tweaked it ever so slightly. Not really, but you know, I thought I would showcase where I've taken the build, my upgrades and how it performs. I think people want to see gameplay first, obviously, before they like watch a build and listen to some dude rant about jewels for 25 minutes. So here is me killing Uber Sirus. This is the level 85 Uber version, and I think anyone that's played PoE, right, if your build can kill Uber Sirus Deathless, it's a pretty solid build. Now granted, there's one Uber I can't seem to get down, and that is the Red X arc, because I just can't seem to understand the mechanics, and the whole arena ends up covered in this mess. But I'm sure if I practice that a bit more, I'll get that down. But I think if your build can do Uber Sirus Deathless, then it shows that there's potential, and it's an okay build, isn't it? Also, I do have a Wave 30 Similacrim Deathless. I'll show you a little bit of footage of that. And obviously I've been blasting tier 17s and I've done 36 challenges. So for me, kind of like the league's over, and at this point I'm just kind of going to mess about and play when I fancy it and just do random strategies. So like at the moment I'm farming a Val Temple just to see if I get any funny corrupts, or you know, we might see how it goes. So basically the build, as you can see in here, is I have a tincture, I've got my 3 flasks, spell suppress, capped, I am ailment immune, I do have a merc, and to be honest, Smite's a little bit hit and miss. Sometimes you get the exact correct distance, 2 beams come down, your melee's hitting and you're doing a ton of damage. There's still upgrades I can find for this build as well, so I'll probably just continue to keep working on the build. But I thought, yeah, before we begin with POBs and stuff, I thought I'd showcase a Deathless Sirus. This is actually the first time I've done Uber Sirus Deathless. The only other time I've killed him was with a Ellie Spectral deck stacking throw build with a Mage Blood, and yeah, I think nobody likes this fight. Maybe there's a technique to it, but one of the biggest helps that I've found is that if you see the direction the boss is facing and he blinks, that's where they're going to go. They always blink in the direction that they're facing, which might sound really obvious, but man, that helps a lot when you realize that. So yeah, kind of almost capped chaos res. I'm only 75 res, so it's not a tanky build, but it's deceptively tanky. Obviously I'm not running a life flask here. The flasks I'm running could be changed, could be tweaked. I'm using a rare pair of gloves as well, which I'll talk about all the gear, but I just wanted to sit and showcase first a bit of gameplay, because without gameplay you might not even want to play the build. Mapping wise, it's really fun. Screen wide explosions with Val Smite, you know, tons of just fun to be had blasting maps. You could also make some gloves that have extra Val skill strikes, which I was tempted to make, which I'll talk about, but I chose to go a different route. This is like the awkward part of like Uber Sirus, isn't it? Like I'm kind of like wondering, where do I go? I'm trapped with storms all around me. Sometimes you just have to wait it out. I suppose I can skip it forward here to like the bit where we actually kill him. And you'll... Oh, 1 second. Sorry, and if you... Yeah, we just skip forward to the bit where we're actually dealing damage, and you can see like if you get the 2 beams hitting and the melee, and you get your tincture and all of your frenzy charges kick in, you do quite a lot of damage. But obviously with Uber Sirus, the degen things are left on the floor, and you kind of have to play the build and the fight pretty well. But you can see there, look at the damage on an Uber Sirus. That's really big damage, isn't it? But yeah, if there's degen all on the floor, it's like anything. It's a bit of a struggle. But yeah, you can see that we managed to get it down. And if we then pull up a Similacrum, which is here, this is like wave 29. I won't play you the whole thing, it's probably boring at this point, but yeah, this is like the wave 29 Deathless Similacrum. I think it's got monster life, quadruple pen, or Ellie as extra, so, but pretty much sure, well, I suppose you're not dodging everything, but you just have spell suppress, you do have evade. But yeah, you can see there's two bosses. This might actually be wave 30, not sure. But it's like not a build you're going to stand still and tank, but you can actually take hits. And obviously, like, if you do get put a bit low, you just have like Slayer Leech, don't you? So you can do really big damage. And there you go. Just to be honest, it was a pretty comfortable phase. No deaths throughout the Similacrim. Skip forward a little bit. Yeah, so you can see, I think this is the last wave. Oh no, look, yeah, there's the last wave, wave 15. And yeah, pretty comfortable damage. You can just see, here's like there's a boss just getting melted. You can see him regening as well. And yeah, the wave 30 goes down pretty nicely. Cool. So I'm going to go into the game, I suppose. Probably should load up the game and then I'll show you the gear. And I've also got this POB. I can link the POB as well if you just want to have a look at the gear and the upgrades. I followed Rutu's build. Followed his like day 1 to, I don't know why this is popping up. Why is let's log in. Sorry for the delay. So some numbers, if people want to aim for numbers, okay. The tooltip says 153. That's unbuffed, with nothing going on. We have a cold foil with attack speed, crit chance multi in pen. If you want to know how to craft this, basically get a fracture, spam zeal essences until you get tier 1 crit or multi, and then just do suffix can't be changed, reforge crit until you get a tier 1. And then suffix can't be changed, veil orb, block, percent fizz, unveil, penetrate, and then put on hits can't be evaded. Heat shiver, that activates all the core damage. The only reason this has a 90% mana reservation, which I don't actually think is that expensive anymore, is, I'll just run the macro to price check for you, is because, yeah, 5 div, is because I wanted to run Herald Device. There's no reason to run Herald Device in the build. It does give you a tiny bit of damage, but I just wanted to use an MTX, and so I just put them in this with an Enlighten 3. So I've got Grace, Flesh and Stone, Herald Device. What probably would be better is to just do Grace and Blood and Sand, level 7. And you actually go and gain quite a lot of damage from that. Shield, Avoid Ailments, Life Chaos Res, and then I put Chaos as extra, Cold as extra Chaos. And then we have the chest piece. The way I crafted this was Fractured Suppress, spam Essence, Chaos Essence until you got Fizz Reduction, Suffix can't be changed, Reforge Life, pray you get a good roll, and then I just exalted Armor, and then crafted Max Life, but you can also, Suffix can't be changed, I think Veiled Exalted Orb, Unveil Ailments, and then put on Max Life, and then you don't need ailments on the shield. But I didn't kind of realize about that tech, so I just exalt slammed and I got armor evasion. This belt, the Arn's Anguish, that gives you brutal charges, which basically lets you deal triple damage. So the more endurance charges you have, the more chance you have to deal triple damage, which is pretty big. And then you have Relikesh with endurance charges counting as always having them. That makes you tankier. And with you generating charges every 15 seconds, you have brutal charges. That's why gaining frenzy charges is good, because frenzy charges equal brutal charges and endurance charges in a way. So it's always good to get max frenzy. Now the gloves, for the longest time, if we take a look, we're using +1 Frenzy Southbound gloves. A couple of pairs of those I've made. Eventually, I decided that I wanted to make a different pair of gloves, so I elevated a Warlord's Marks. So a Warlord, so I got Frenzy Charge with chance to gain your maximum Frenzy Charges. This just means on bosses, occasionally you don't have that awkward ramp where you're waiting for Frenzies. And then I did Awakened Redeemer for cold damage if you've crit recently, and then I slammed the two together. But you would probably be best doing Val Strikes hit an additional target for mapping. I then, what I did was, I got the two elevated mods. That I crafted can have multiple mods. Prefix can't be changed. Blocked cold damage to attacks. Then reforged cold. Got tier 2 cold res because I needed it. And then I was umming and ahhing whether to just Exalt Slam, craft a mod, Slam, and I decided to just do multi-mod, attack speed, and damage whilst leeching. You could craft life on these, you could put chaos res on it if you wanted another resistance, but I just decided to just go all out for damage. They are very similar to the Southbounds in terms of damage, but I think it just feels a bit nicer with the attack speed and the chance to gain charges, and yeah, I just prefer them. The price is, honestly, they don't exist because no one's made a pair of gloves like these, which is pretty cool in essence, but nobody has put a Redeemer and a thingy together. All they ever do is what they basically do is they put the two Frenzy mods together, which I'll show you. They'll do the elevated mod with this mod here, non-Val Skill Strike an additional 2, and then they try and craft something good. I could have done that, but again, just decided to do something a bit different. So yeah, kind of a unique pair of gloves that don't exist on the market. And then I've got my Tincture for Pen, bit of evasion, onslaught, curse effect, crit chance, and then I did run a flask. I did run a life flask for the longest time, but just found it to be kind of useless for 99% of things. If you're gonna die, you're gonna be one shot, and if you can hit something and you're not dead, you're probably leeching anyway. So I just got rid of it. I then went along and I was corrupting Smite gems, leveling them up, qualitying them up, and farming my own temples, and eventually I got my own level 21/20 Smite, which apparently is like 35 divines, but genuinely you get 3 mil damage from it, so it's not needed, it's just an upgrade, and when you've min-maxed the build to a point, then yeah. Now you can play the sword version with the mage blood and the, you know, put your resistances on the enemy and invert them, and you'll be tankier and it'll be a really fun time. But I just liked attacking fast with the single-handed foil. It just felt nicer. It might not be as good, but I wanted to push this build as far as I could and play something I enjoy. I don't really care about the odd death on a tier 17 or an Uber. You know, I want to play something that's fun. And so instead of spending 200 divines on a mage blood, I spent 200 divines on a frenzy charge ring, and I spammed the horror essence for frenzy charge until I got something decent. And this has a res, which I need, and it has some int, which allowed me to respec out of some nodes. And then because I can respec out of some int nodes, I can also, if I wanted to, get rid of jewels like this that have intelligence and then get far better jewels. So no longer do I need the intelligence, and that's the reason I did it. So yes, you could craft a better ring, but for my build it works. And then obviously I'm reflecting it with a Calandra's Touch, which is like 10 div or something, 14 div now. So yeah, this base, I think it's coming down in price. It's gone up in price, so they fluctuate here and there. Yesterday they were all at 190, today they're 240. I spent 200. So I actually, now that I'm thinking about this and I'm looking at my gems again, I don't know if I need increased crit strikes, and I could just put multi in there. I've actually never thought about this, so we'll have a look at that, because I don't know why I have increased crit strikes in there. If I take that out, my crit chance is still 76%. That's with power charges though. If I take off power charges, 63% chance with a flask isn't actually that bad. And then if I was to go and put in increased critical strike damage, and then enable it, it's close in terms of damage, but maybe it doesn't feel as good because you're not critting as often. So I'd probably just keep the increased crit chance. Maybe I could do something where I put a jewel in that has crit chance with the smaller passive nodes, and then get more crit chance. So there's an idea of getting rid of this jewel. And this is why I like playing a build till the end game and kind of like dicking around with it, because you could put the one that gives crit chance to all the small passives and then also put in increased crit damage. So there's ideas for the build, but basically I have some cannot be stunned tattoos, the main technology. I have a +1 rune graph gem here, which gives +1, which doesn't actually seem to be showing in POB, so maybe my damage is a bit higher. We have our cluster jewel, and yeah, just suppress jewels and kind of the same tree. And I got to level 100 basically without dying, so that's why I'm level 100, because I just didn't die on the build. And so that's where we're at. That's where we're at, really. The build originally, last time I showed you, had about 26 mil damage. It now has 58 mil damage, and I'm not sure if it's including the +1. If it's, I don't think it is. And if I put +1 on these gems, because I'm pretty sure they are +1, because if I look in my chest, that is a +1 multi-strike, +1 awakened, +1 ice bite. We're actually running at like 62 mil. Flesh and Stone might, no, Flesh and Stone doesn't, but if you want to look at the tech, get rid of the Enlighten, get rid of the Herald of Ice, and then instead of Flesh and Stone, put in Blood and Sand, level 7, sorry, and then enable it and put yourself in Blood stance, you're at 68 mil. So technically you could be at 68 mil damage. And then also there's dual upgrades, so we could be going to 70, 80 mil damage. And honestly, that's more than enough to kill bosses in the game. The only boss I'm struggling with is the red boss, but if you want to have a look, just to, you know, if you care about that, there is endgame grinds or something. You can see the only ones I haven't done are Searching Exarch. I'm just not mechanically very good at that, and I haven't tried a Maven because simply I have negative memory skills, and I'd done the challenges and I just couldn't be bothered spending a ton to do a Maven. But if you have 70 mil damage and you can do a Deathless Sirus, I'm pretty sure you can do a Maven. So yeah, it handled everything in the game. Again, 1 second flyby in an Blood Aqueducts is more than enough. If you care about my Merc setup, Tull Wand with exposure for more exposure, brittle, lucky damage. I'm not using the Worm Ring because it just annoys me in my hideout. Corm's Binding and Legacy of Fury and a random shield. But yeah, I've just liked the build, just running along and just pressing Smite like this. And honestly, doing this is exactly how it performs in a tier 16. You slide and one-shot all packs. Now, if you go to like a tier 17, it might take a couple of hits, maybe. But honestly, you can just literally blitz through the game like this. And it just, having this much damage just feels great. And then obviously, if you want to press Foul Smite, feels great. And yeah, it's just been a really good build. So, in terms of upgrades, obviously I could get another +1 on my gems. If I wanted to go down that route, I could get a level 6 enlightened awakened attacks, which would take it to level 7. Does that even do anything? That doesn't seem to do anything for the damage. Maybe they're capped out. That's interesting, isn't it? Wonder why it doesn't do anything for the damage. Maybe there's a breakpoint. But yeah, you could get a level 21 Ice Bite. Maybe I have a 21. No, I don't. So a level 21 Ice Bite would become what? A level 22? So there's upgrades to be had here. Obviously, I would put back in the crit strike damage, the critical strikes. I could get a 21 there as well. So look, there's options, things to do. Still upgrades, still jewels. You could go all the way and do a blooming voices if you wanted. Probably get a better cluster jewel if you wanted to go down that route. This area of the tree, it's tempting to just, I don't know, there's a lot of passives here used to get to this node, and I don't know if this is super efficient. Maybe I could mess about with it. But yeah, for the most part, that's where we're at. It's done everything in the game, and just gonna continue to play and do small upgrades on it. You know, every little gem level helps. It's not gonna ever be the super tanky build that one shots everything, but you know, we're getting there. You know, there's upgrades to be had and done. So I thought I'd showcase where I'm at, because last time we were doing some tier 17s. We just killed our first one. Now we're like obliterating stuff. So there are obviously tankier builds and stuff to play, but I've just been enjoying this, so kind of min-maxed it a little bit and thought I'd show you. I'll put a POB in the description, and if you ever want to ask any questions, you can join the stream and ask, because yesterday I had a guy that was doing no damage and he had no accuracy and he didn't have hits can not be evaded, so he was struggling there, but we fixed that. So yeah, alright, I'll let you go. Peace.